The Prada bag in my hands cost more than 3 months of my old rent, and I hated everything about it. 6 weeks of marriage to Luca Moretti, and I still couldn't adjust to the weight of luxury draped over captivity. The mall was exclusive, the kind where champagne flowed freely and salespeople whispered your name with rehearsed intimacy. Marco stood 15 feet behind me, broad-shouldered in his dark suit, hand perpetually near the concealed weapon I pretended not to know about. This was my life now. Designer clothes I didn't choose, a bodyguard I didn't want, a husband I barely knew. "Mrs. Moretti, would you like to see the new collection?" The boutique manager smiled with practiced warmth, but her eyes held the same calculation I saw everywhere now. She didn't see Sophia Chun, former bookstore manager with student loans and a studio apartment. She saw Luca Moretti's wife. The transaction that saved my brother's life and sold mine. "Maybe next time," I murmured, turning toward the exit. That's when I saw her. Emma, my former roommate, stood near the fountain, blonde hair in the same messy bun she'd worn through college, yoga mat tucked under one arm. She was laughing at something on her phone, completely unaware that the girl she'd lived with for 3 years, the girl who'd vanished without explanation 6 weeks ago, was standing 20 feet away, wearing a wedding ring that cost more than a car. I should have walked past. Should have remembered Luca's only rule: don't talk to anyone from your old life without permission. But God, I missed her. Missed normal. Missed being someone other than the ghost haunting a penthouse prison. Emma. Her name escaped before I could stop it. She looked up. Her face transformed: shock, confusion, then pure joy. "Sophia? Oh my God, Sophia!" She rushed forward, pulling me into a hug that smelled like her lavender shampoo and the coffee shop where we'd spent countless mornings. "Where have you been? You disappeared." "You stopped answering texts, your number changed, I went to your apartment, and I know, I'm sorry, it's complicated." I pulled back, aware of Marco's attention sharpening behind me, aware that this moment was already a mistake I'd pay for later. Complicated? "So, I filed a missing persons report." I thought. Her eyes caught my left hand, the platinum band with its 3-carat diamond. Her mouth opened, closed. "You got married?" "Emma, I can't explain right now, but..." "Can't explain? We've been friends since freshman year. You can't just vanish and then show up wearing ... She gestured at my outfit silk blouse. Tailored pants, heels that cost what she probably made in a week. "What happened to you?" Behind me, Marco spoke quietly into his phone, my stomach clenched. I had maybe 2 minutes before this situation escalated beyond my control. "Listen," I grabbed her hands, desperate. "Meet me for coffee next week. I'll explain everything. I promise. Just give me some time to figure out how. Next week." "Sophia, what's going on? Are you okay? Is someone Mrs. Moretti?" Marco was beside me now, his voice respectful but urgent. "We need to leave. Who is this?" Emma's eyes narrowed. "Soph, are you in trouble?" "No, I'm fine. I'll call you, okay?" The air changed. I felt him before I saw him. That shift in atmosphere that happened whenever Luca Moretti entered a space. Conversations died. People moved unconsciously out of his path. Even Emma, who'd never met him, went silent as 3 black SUVs pulled up to the mall entrance with the precision of a military operation. Luca emerged from the center vehicle, 6 feet of controlled violence wrapped in a charcoal suit. His dark eyes found me instantly across the crowded atrium, and the fury in them made my breath catch. He crossed the distance with lethal grace, his expression carved from ice. He didn't acknowledge Emma, didn't speak, just wrapped his fingers around my wrist, not hard, never hard, but absolutely immovable, and began guiding me toward the exit. "Wait!" Emma called. "Sophia, who is he?" "What?" Marco stepped smoothly between them, his bulk blocking her pursuit. "Ma'am, I suggest you go home." "Sophia!" Emma's voice cracked with fear I'd caused. "Call me. Please." I couldn't even look back. Lucas's grip was unyielding as he placed me in the SUV's back seat, then slid in beside me. The door closed with a final, expensive click. The vehicle moved before I'd even registered we were leaving. Silence, suffocating and absolute. I stared at my hands, at the ring that suddenly felt like a shackle, and waited. Luca's breathing was controlled, measured, the kind of calm that preceded storms. Finally he spoke. His voice was dangerously soft. "Who was that woman, and why did you look so happy to see her?" The 20-minute drive to the penthouse felt like hours. Luca said nothing, his jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping beneath his skin. His hand remained on my near brand of ownership that burned through the fabric of my pants. When we arrived, I understood why he'd been silent. He'd been making calls. The penthouse lobby that I'd left 3 hours ago was unrecognizable. Men in dark suits lined the hallway, not the usual 2 guards, but 12, maybe more. They stood at intervals with military precision, earpieces glinting, hands ready near concealed weapons. The concierge looked terrified. Luca guided me to the private elevator, his palm flat against my lower back. The moment the doors closed and we were alone, I found my voice. "This is insane. This is necessary." He didn't look at me, just stared at the ascending floor numbers like they held answers to questions I didn't understand. "Luca, she's my friend. We lived together for 3 years." "She's not. She's a liability." His voice was flat, emotionless. The tone he used when discussing business I wasn't supposed to understand. "Anyone from your old life is." The elevator opened directly into the penthouse. More guards. I counted 4 just in the living room. Security cameras had appeared in corners I'd never noticed before, small, blinking red eyes watching everything. My phone buzzed in my purse. I reached for it instinctively, but Luca's hand caught my wrist. "Give it to me." "What?" "Your phone. Your tablet. Any device with connectivity." His eyes met mine, and they were absolutely cold. Now, Sophia, this was a stranger. The man who sometimes left coffee exactly how I liked it on the kitchen counter. Who'd once asked, almost shyly, if I wanted to watch a movie with him. Who'd looked at me during our wedding like I was something precious and terrifying. That man was gone. This was the mafia boss Chicago whispered about. I handed over my phone with shaking fingers. He passed it to Marco without looking. "Wipe it." "New number. Whitelist only. Luca, please, my office. Now." He walked toward the hallway, and I had no choice but to follow. His office was exactly how I'd imagined it would be, all dark wood and leather. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. A city I was suddenly forbidden from touching. He moved behind his desk and opened a drawer, extracting a manila folder. When he spread the contents across the mahogany surface, my blood turned to ice. Photographs. Dozens of them. Me leaving my old apartment building. Me at the bookstore where I used to work. Me having lunch with my brother. Me laughing with Emma outside our favorite coffee shop. All taken from a distance with a telephoto lens. All marked with red X's over my face. "Someone has been watching you," Luca said, his voice terrifyingly calm. "For weeks. Possibly longer. They know your routines, your friends, your favorite places." He tapped one photo, and Emma hugging goodbye. "They know who you love." My legs felt weak. I gripped the edge of his desk. "Whew! The Russo family." He pulled out another document, surveillance reports, license plates, names I didn't recognize. "Your brother didn't just owe money, Sophia. He witnessed something he shouldn't have. A transaction. They were going to kill him." His eyes lifted to mine. "And then they were going to take you." The room spun. "What? The marriage wasn't just about debt. It was about keeping you alive." He moved around the desk, crowding into my space. "You're safe here, under my name, my protection. But only if you follow the rules." "Rules?" I laughed, but it sounded broken. "You mean orders?" "I mean survival." His hand cupped my face, forcing me to look at him. "The Russos don't care about your innocence. They only see leverage. A way to hurt me and destroy your brother. That woman you talked to today? Emma? If they find out she matters to you, they'll use her." Tears burned my eyes. "So what am I supposed to do? Just exist here? Alone?" Something flickered in his expression. "Almost like regret, until the current situation is resolved, yes. You don't leave without my explicit permission. You don't contact anyone I haven't vetted. I don't breathe without asking first. The anger felt good, clean, better than the fear trying to claw its way up my throat. You're not protecting me, Luca. You're burying me alive. His jaw clenched. For a moment, I thought he might argue. Instead, he stepped back, putting distance between us that felt like miles. Dinner is at 7. Rosa will bring it to your room. My room? I've been sleeping in the guest suite. Always the guest suite. Never his bed. Your room, he confirmed. I have work to do. Dismissed. Like an employee. Like property. I left his office with my head high and tears streaming down my face, passing guards who pretended not to notice. In my beautiful prison of a bedroom, I finally let myself break. That night, unable to sleep, I heard his voice through the walls. Lethal, speaking in rapid Italian. I crept closer to my door and caught fragments. ... Find out who she talked to. ... Where she went. Every person she smiled at in the last 6 weeks. ... A pause. Then, even colder. And bring me the photographer. Alive. Day 2 of my captivity, I woke to find breakfast already prepared on the dining table. Perfectly plated eggs Benedict, fresh fruit arranged like art, coffee in a cup so delicate I was afraid to touch it. Rosa, the housekeeper I'd met exactly twice, had vanished before I could thank her. I ate alone, counting the guards I could see through the open doorway. 6. Always 6 within visual range. The rest patrolled floors I wasn't allowed to access. The penthouse was objectively beautiful, 1,500 square feet of marble and glass. Designer furniture in shades of cream and charcoal, art on the walls that probably cost more than my parents' house. But beauty didn't make it less of a tomb. I tried to read, the words swam on the page. Tried to watch television. Every channel felt like noise. I stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows and stared at the city below, people moving freely through streets I couldn't walk, living lives I'd lost. Luca was everywhere and nowhere. I heard him in his office, voice low and lethal in rapid Italian. Saw him pass through the living room in fresh suits, phone perpetually pressed to his ear. But he didn't speak to me, didn't acknowledge my existence beyond ensuring I was fed, watered, contained, like an exotic pet in a gilded cage. Day 3, I broke. Dinner had been another silent affair. Rosa served grilled salmon with asparagus, poured white wine I didn't drink, and disappeared. Luca sat across from me, tablet beside his plate, reading something that made his expression darken incrementally. I watched him cut his fish with surgical precision, watched the way his jaw worked when he chewed, the slight furrow between his brows. He was handsome in a way that felt dangerous sharp cheekbones. Dark eyes that missed nothing, hair that looked like he'd run his fingers through it too many times. My husband. A stranger who'd purchased me like property and locked me away. How long am I your prisoner? The question shattered the silence like glass. His eyes lifted from the tablet. Excuse me. You heard me. I pushed my plate away, appetite gone. How long do I stay locked in here? Days? Weeks? Years? You're not my prisoner. His voice remained maddeningly calm. You're my wife. There's a difference. I laughed sharp, bitter. Is there? Because from where I'm sitting, they look identical. Something dangerous flashed across his face. He set down his fork with deliberate care, stood, and moved around the table. I should have retreated. Should have recognized the predator in his movements. Instead, I stood my ground as he approached. He didn't stop until I was backed against the kitchen counter, his body crowding mine without quite touching. Close enough that I could smell him bergamot and something darker, like leather and smoke. Close enough to see the gold flecks in his dark eyes. You think this is a game? His voice was soft, deadly. You think I enjoy keeping you here? I think you enjoy control. My heart hammered against my ribs, but I refused to look away. I think you get off on owning people. His hand slammed against the granite beside my hip. I flinched. He noticed, and something like pain crossed his features before the mask returned. Someone wants you dead, Sophia. Each word was measured, precise. The Russos have a contract out. $50,000 to whoever delivers you to them. Do you understand what that means? Every desperate criminal in Chicago is looking for you right now. The air left my lungs. The only reason you're still breathing, he continued, leaning closer, is because I won't allow anything else. This penthouse. The guards? The lockdown? It's not punishment. It's survival. His eyes searched mine, looking for understanding I wasn't sure I could give. We stood there, frozen in proximity that felt both threatening and intimate, his breath warm against my forehead. I know you hate me, he whispered. I know you think I'm a monster. You're probably right, but I will keep you alive, Sophia, even if you despise me for it. He pushed away from the counter and walked toward his office, leaving me trembling and confused. But not before I saw it, the way his hands shook as he shoved them into his pockets. Not from anger, from fear. I couldn't sleep. Again. 3A.M. found me staring at the ceiling of my bedroom, counting the minutes between the guards' patrol footsteps in the hallway. 12 steps. Pause. Turn. 12 steps back. A rhythm that was driving me slowly insane. The penthouse was silent except for those footsteps and the low murmur of a voice I recognized. Luca's office light was still on, a golden strip beneath his door. I should have stayed in bed, should have respected whatever boundary still existed between us. But something pulled me forward. Curiosity, loneliness, or maybe just the desperate need to understand the man who'd made himself my jailer and protector in equal measure. I knocked softly. No response. I pushed the door open anyway. Luca sat behind his desk, still wearing yesterday's shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms marked with faded scars I'd never noticed before. Papers and photographs covered every surface. His hair was disheveled, like he'd been running his fingers through it for hours. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. He looked exhausted, haunted, human. You should be asleep, he said without looking up. So should you. I stepped inside, closing the door behind me. How long have you been working? Does it matter? It does when you look like you're about to collapse. I moved closer, studying the chaos on his desk. More surveillance photos. Financial records. Names circled in red ink. Luca, what is all this? His hand stilled over a document. For a long moment he said nothing. Then quietly, insurance, contingencies, every possible threat mapped and neutralized before it reaches you. The exhaustion in his voice broke something inside me. I'd been so angry, so focused on my own captivity, that I hadn't considered what this was costing him. Why? The question escaped softer than I'd intended. Why did you really marry me? His eyes finally lifted to mine. In them I saw something raw and unguarded. The mask he wore so carefully had cracked in his exhaustion. Sit down, Sophia. I sat in the leather chair across from him, heart pounding. He pulled out a folder I hadn't seen before and slid it across the desk. Inside were documents marked with official stamps, police reports, intercepted communications. My brother's name appeared over and over. So did mine. Your brother didn't just owe the Russos money, Luca began, his voice carefully controlled. He witnessed a transaction. A weapons deal that was supposed to be invisible. He saw faces, heard names, could identify people who don't exist on paper. My blood ran cold. Danny never said Danny never told you because they threatened to kill you if he did. Luca's jaw clenched. The Russos gave him a choice. Deliver you to them as collateral for his silence, or watch you die slowly while he paid off his debt. The room spun. What? They were going to kidnap you, Sophia. Use you to ensure his cooperation. And when they were done, double quotes, he didn't finish. Didn't need to. The implications hung in the air like poison. How do you know this? Because they contacted me first. His eyes held mine unflinching. They wanted to use my territory for the exchange. I said no. Then I looked into who you were, and He stopped, something vulnerable flickering across his face. I couldn't let it happen, so you offered Danny an alternative. Understanding crashed over me. Marriage. Marriage puts you under my protection, makes you untouchable by family law. The Russos couldn't take you without declaring war on me." He leaned back in his chair, suddenly looking older than his 32 years. "Danny took the deal in under 5 minutes. Didn't even ask what it would cost you." Anger and grief warred in my chest. My brother had sold me to save himself. And Luca ... "You saved my life," I whispered. "I trapped you in mine." His smile was bitter. "I didn't want a wife, Sophia. I wanted to save your life without you knowing you needed saving. But the Russos are smart. They figured it out." He gestured to the surveillance photos scattered across his desk. Me and Emma. Me at the bookstore. Me everywhere I'd thought I was invisible. They've been watching you since before the wedding. Waiting for an opportunity. Learning your weaknesses. His voice dropped, dangerous and protective. "They know you're mine now, which makes you the perfect target. Hurt you, and they hurt me." I stared at this man who'd orchestrated my salvation and imprisonment, who looked at me with something between regret and possession, who was fighting a war one hadn't known existed. "I'm sorry I brought you into this," he said quietly, his eyes never leaving mine. "But I'm not sorry I'm keeping you." Day 7 of lockdown. I'd stopped counting the guards and started learning their names instead. Vincent had a daughter in college. Marco's wife was pregnant. Acknowledging their humanity made the cage feel slightly less suffocating. I was in the kitchen making tea, one of the few activities I was allowed, when the world exploded into chaos. Alarms shrieked through the penthouse, so loud I dropped the mug. It shattered across marble as red emergency lights flooded the hallways. Through the living room windows, I saw guards rushing to positions with military precision, weapons drawn. Then Luca was there, seemingly materializing from nowhere, his hand wrapped around a gun I'd never seen him carry. His other hand grabbed my arm. "Move. Now." He dragged me down a hallway I'd walked 100 times, but instead of turning toward the bedrooms, he pressed his palm against what I'd thought was decorative wall paneling. It slid open, revealing a reinforced steel door with a biometric scanner inside. He pushed me through into a room I hadn't known existed, maybe 12 feet square, lined with monitors showing every angle of the building. A bed, supplies, a safe room designed for exactly this scenario. "Luca, what's happening?" "The Russos." His face was carved from stone, but his eyes burned with controlled fury. "They're breaching the building. Stay here. Don't open this door for anyone but me." He pressed a keycard into my hand. "If I don't come back in 2 hours, use this. There's a tunnel that leads to the parking garage. Marco knows where to take you. You're leaving?" Panic clawed up my throat. "Luca." He cupped my face with his free hand, the gesture almost tender despite the violence in his eyes. "I won't let them reach you. I promise." Then he was gone, the door sealing with a hydraulic hiss that sounded like a tomb closing. The monitors flickered to life automatically. 12 screens showing 12 different angles of death approaching. I watched men in tactical gear breach the lobby, 8 of them, moving with professional efficiency. The concierge dove behind his desk. My guards, Vincent, Marco, the others whose names I'd just learned, opened fire. The sound didn't reach me through the reinforced walls, but I saw the muzzle flashes. Saw bodies fall. Couldn't tell whose. Then I saw Luca in the hallway outside his office, coordinating defense with lethal precision. He moved like violence incarnate, shooting, directing, protecting. 3 men advanced on his position. He dropped 2 before they got within 10 feet. The third got closer. Too close. My scream died in my throat as Luca ducked under a punch, drove his elbow into the man's throat and put 2 bullets in his chest before he hit the ground. The monitors showed chaos erupting on every floor. More guards poured in from somewhere, reinforcements Luca must have called. The tide was turning, but then Monitor 3 went dark. Then Monitor 7. Someone was cutting feeds. My heart stopped. The panic room door handle jiggled. Once. Twice. A voice called through the reinforced steel mail. Unfamiliar, with an accent I couldn't place. "Mrs. Moretti, your husband sent me to get you." It's not safe here. Every instinct screamed wrong. Luca had said only him, no one else. I pressed myself against the far wall, fingers white-knuckled around the keycard, and prayed. The handle stopped moving. Footsteps retreated. Then nothing. Silence more terrifying than the alarms had been. Minutes crawled past like hours. I couldn't see what was happening anymore with half the monitors dead. Couldn't hear anything beyond my own ragged breathing. Then Luca's voice crackled through an intercom I hadn't noticed. "Sophia, it's over. I'm coming to you." When the door opened, he was covered in blood. It streaked his shirt, marked his hands, spattered across his face like war paint. But he moved without injury, stepping into the panic room with eyes that swept over me frantically, cataloguing every detail. "You're okay." He crossed the space in 2 strides and pulled me into his arms with desperate strength. His body was rigid with adrenaline, his heart hammering against my cheek. "You're okay. You're okay." He kept repeating it, the words muffled against my hair. And I realized with sudden clarity that he wasn't reassuring me. He was reassuring himself. The breach was contained within 20 minutes. 4 Russo soldiers dead. 2 captured and already being interrogated in locations I didn't want to know about, but Luca refused to let me out of his sight. He brought me to the master bedroom, not the guest room I'd been using, but his bedroom. A space I'd never entered. All dark wood and masculine lines, a massive bed with charcoal sheets. Windows overlooking the city he controlled through fear and calculated violence. "Sit." He guided me to the bed, then disappeared into the en-suite bathroom. I heard water running. I stared at my hands. They were shaking. Small cuts marked my palms where I'd pressed against the panic room wall without realizing, fingernails digging into skin hard enough to break it. Luca returned with a first aid kit and knelt in front of me. The position was so unexpected, this dangerous man on his knees, that I couldn't process it. Let me see, his voice was gentler than I'd ever heard it. I extended my hands. He cradled them carefully, examining the cuts with a focus that felt disproportionate to the minor injuries. His touch was surprisingly tender as he cleaned the wounds with antiseptic, his jaw clenching each time I winced. "I'm okay," I whispered. "It's nothing." "It's not nothing." He wrapped gauze around my palms with meticulous care. "You're hurt because of me. Because I brought you into this world. You saved my life. Tonight and 6 weeks ago." His hands stilled. "I put a target on your back." The adrenaline that had kept me upright during the attack was draining away, leaving exhaustion and something else in its wake. A trembling that started in my hands and spread through my entire body. Delayed shock, maybe, or the weight of understanding how close I'd come to death, Luca noticed immediately. He abandoned the first aid kit and pulled me against his chest, strong arms wrapping around me like he could physically hold me together. "It's okay," he murmured, one hand cradling the back of my head. "You're safe, have you?" He started speaking in Italian, low, rhythmic words I didn't understand but felt in my bones. The cadence was soothing, almost like a lullaby. His heart beat steady beneath my ear, an anchor in the storm. I don't know how long we stayed like that. Long enough for my shaking to subside. Long enough for the reality to sink in that we were alive, together, breathing. "I thought I'd lost you," he confessed into my hair, his voice raw in a way I'd never heard. "For 3 minutes I couldn't reach the panic room. The feeds were cut. I couldn't see you, couldn't protect you. And I thought..." He didn't finish. His arms tightened almost painfully. I pulled back enough to look at him. Really look at him. Blood still marked his face. Someone else's blood. His shirt was ruined. But his eyes... His eyes held devastation I didn't understand. "Why does it matter?" I whispered. "We barely know each other. This marriage is just a transaction." His laugh was broken, jagged. "Is that what you think? Isn't it? I've known you for 2 years, Sophia." The world stopped. "What?" He released me slowly, standing and moving to the window like he couldn't face me for what came next. His shoulders were rigid, hands shoved deep in his pockets. 2 years ago, I attended a charity fundraiser at Children's Memorial. I was there for appearances, make a donation, shake hands, pretend to care. His voice was quiet, careful. You were volunteering at the children's craft table. There was a little girl, maybe 5, who'd lost her parents in the crowd. She was crying, terrified. I remembered that day. Remembered the girl with dark curls and huge brown eyes. You stopped everything, Luca continued, knelt down to her level, made her a paper flower and told her a story about brave princesses until she smiled. Then you held her hand and helped her find her mother. He finally looked at me, and the vulnerability in his eyes stole my breath. You were so kind, so genuine. In my world, kindness is currency, strategy, but yours was real. Luca, I started watching after that. Shame colored his admission. Not stalking, just checking in. Making sure you were okay. Learning about you, your job, your dreams, your brother's debts. His hands clenched into fists. When the Russo situation surfaced, I saw an opportunity and a threat. I could marry you legitimately, keep you safe, and maybe if I was lucky, you'd eventually see past the monster. My heart hammered against my ribs. You engineered everything. Yes. The marriage, the debt, all of it. Yes. He met my eyes unflinchingly. I never meant for you to find out like this. I was going to tell you after the threat was neutralized, after you'd had time to adjust. He exhaled roughly. I'm sorry, Sophia. For the deception, for the cage, for everything except keeping you alive. I should have been furious, horrified. But looking at this dangerous man who'd been orchestrating my protection for years, who'd just fought his way through armed intruders to reach me, who held me like I was something precious and breakable, I felt something else entirely. That's insane, I breathed. I know. That's obsessive. I know. I kissed him. The kiss wasn't gentle. It was 2 years of obsession and 6 weeks of tension, combusting into something desperate and consuming. Luca froze for half a heartbeat, shocked, maybe, that I'd initiated. Then his control shattered. His hands tangled in my hair as he kissed me back with bruising intensity. He tasted like whiskey and something darker, dangerous. His body pressed mine backward until my knees hit the bed, and we fell together onto charcoal sheets that smelled like himbergamot and smoke and possession. Sophia, my name was a prayer and a warning. He pulled back, breathing hard, his eyes wild with want and restraint, warring for dominance. If we do this, if I touch you the way I've dreamed about for 2 years, then touch me. I pulled him back down, silencing his protests with another kiss. He groaned against my mouth, the sound vibrating through my chest. You don't understand. Once I start, I won't be able to stop. Won't be able to let you go. Not even when the threat is over. Not ever. Good. I traced the line of his jaw, feeling the stubble rough beneath my fingertips. I'm tired of the distance, Luca. Tired of pretending this marriage is just paperwork. Something in him broke. Or maybe something finally aligned. His mouth claimed mine again, as his hands learned the shape of me, tentative at first, like I might vanish, then bolder when I arched into his touch. Tell me to stop, he whispered against my throat, teeth grazing skin that had never been touched like this. Tell me you don't want this and I'll walk away. I'll go back to my office and we'll pretend I want this. My fingers worked the buttons of his blood-stained shirt. Desperate to feel skin against skin. I want you. The confession unleashed something primal in him. Clothes disappeared, his ruined shirt, my simple dress, until there was nothing between us but heat and want and 2 years of waiting. He worshipped me with reverent desperation, mapping every curve with his hands and mouth. Murmuring Italian words I didn't understand but felt in my soul. Bellissima. Mia. Sempre mia. When we finally came together, it hurt, a sharp, bright pain that made me gasp. He froze immediately, every muscle locked. Sophia, agony in his voice. You never said, don't stop. I pulled him closer, wrapping my legs around his waist. Please, Luca, don't stop. He moved with exquisite care, watching my face for every flicker of discomfort, adjusting until pain transformed into something else entirely. something overwhelming and perfect and utterly consuming. Afterward we lay tangled in sheets damp with sweat and revelation. His heart thundered beneath my palm where I pressed it against his chest, counting the beats like they could anchor me to this moment. "I meant what I said," he murmured into my hair. "I won't let you go now. Can't." I tilted my head back to look at him. In the dim light from the city below, he looked younger, vulnerable, almost breakable. "Then don't." I traced the tattoos marking his ribs. Italian script I couldn't read. "What does this say?" He caught my hand, kissed my palm. "Solo I morti vedono la fine della guerra." Only the dead see the end of war. His eyes met mine, dark and haunted. "My father had it done when I was 18. A reminder that our life is violence. Always has been. Always will be. But you make me want to survive it," he continued, his voice dropping to barely a whisper. "You make me want to try being more than just a soldier in an endless war." I kissed him softly, tasting vulnerability and hope. "Then let's survive it together." His phone buzzed on the nightstand, harsh and intrusive. He ignored it. It buzzed again. Then a third time, insistent. With a curse, he reached for it, pulling me against his side as he answered. "What?" I watched his expression shift from irritation to stone-cold fury in the space of a heartbeat. "When?" A pause. "How many men?" Another pause. Longer. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. He hung up and looked at me with something like devastation. "They have Emma." Luca was out of bed before I could process his words, pulling on clothes with military efficiency. The vulnerable man who'd held me moments ago vanished, replaced by the crime lord Chicago feared. "They took her 2 hours ago," he said, buttoning a fresh shirt outside her yoga studio. "Professional grab, no witnesses, no cameras. They left a message." "What message?" He pulled a gun from his nightstand drawer, checked the magazine with practiced ease. "You in exchange for her and a truce." Ice flooded my veins. "They're using her to get to me. They're using her to get to both of us." He grabbed his phone, already typing rapid commands. "I have men mobilizing. We'll get her back." "I'm coming with you." "Absolutely not." He didn't even look at me. "You stay here with Marco, and she's in danger because of me." I grabbed his arm, forcing him to face me. "Because I talked to her that day at the mall. Because I loved her enough that they could use her as leverage. I have to fix this. Sophia, this is a trap. They want you to come. I won't deliver you into their hands. Then don't deliver me." I held his gaze, refusing to back down. "Bring me as your partner. Your equal. Let me stand beside you when we get her back." The war in his face was brutal, possessive fear versus grudging respect. Finally, he exhaled roughly and cupped my face with both hands. "You stay in the car. You stay with Marco. And if anything goes wrong, I know. I run. You survive." He kissed me hard, desperate. "Promise me." "I promise." The warehouse sat in an industrial wasteland on the edge of the city, corrugated metal and broken windows, the kind of place where screams went unheard. 5 black SUVs formed a perimeter, and I counted at least 20 of Luca's men taking positions with lethal efficiency. Marco stayed glued to my side as Luca coordinated the assault. Watching him work was mesmerizing, every command precise, every contingency mapped. This was his element, violence as strategy. "Infrared shows 8 hostiles inside," one of his lieutenants reported. "The woman is center floor, restrained but mobile. No visible injuries." Relief made my knees weak. Emma was alive. "Victor Ruza is with her," the lieutenant continued. "He's waiting for you, boss." Luca's jaw clenched. Victor, the Russo underboss. Second in command and twice as vicious as his older brother. "Then let's not keep him waiting." Luca turned to me, his eyes holding mine. "Stay with Marco. No matter what happens in there, you stay in this vehicle. Understood?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. He squeezed my hand once, then disappeared into the warehouse with 10 armed men flanking him. Through the SUV's windows, I watched the building swallow them. Marco's hand rested near his weapon, his entire body coiled tension. "He'll get her out," Marco said quietly. The boss doesn't fail when someone he cares about is at stake. Minutes crawled by, then movement at the warehouse entrance. Luca emerged first, his men behind him in defensive formation. And between them, Emma. She was pale, terrified, but walking under her own power. Relief crashed over me so intensely I nearly opened the door. Then Victor stepped out behind them. He was older than Luca, maybe 40, with silver threading through dark hair and the weathered face of someone who'd survived decades of violence. He held no weapon, didn't need to. 8 men with rifles flanked him. "Moretti!" Victor called out, his voice carrying across the space. "I appreciate you coming. Very punctual. Release her. Now." Luca's voice was death itself. "I will. Right after you give me what I want." Victor smiled, cold and calculating. "Your wife in exchange for the girl and a truce. Seems fair." No. Victor's smile widened. "Then they both die. Simple economics, really. You lose your leverage, I gain mine." The standoff stretched, tension crackling like electricity. Every gun was aimed, every finger on a trigger. One wrong move, and the warehouse district would become a war zone. I made my choice. Before Marco could stop me, I opened the SUV door and stepped out, hands raised. "Sophia." Luca's roar carried across the parking lot, raw with fury and terror. But I was already walking forward, into the open space between the two groups. Every weapon tracked my movement. Victor's expression shifted to surprise, then satisfaction. I stopped 10 feet from him and spoke clearly, loudly enough for everyone to hear. "You want leverage against him? You've already lost." I kept my voice steady despite my racing heart. "Killing me just makes him the most dangerous man in this city with nothing left to lose. No conscience, no restraint. Just rage." Victor's smile faltered slightly. "But let her go," I continued, gesturing to Emma, "and maybe he'll let you walk away." For one eternal moment, Victor considered this. His eyes moved from me to Luca, calculating odds. Then he raised his gun. Luca moved faster than should be possible, covering the distance and tackling me to the ground as gunfire erupted everywhere. The world became muzzle flashes and chaos. Luca's body covered mine completely, his weight pressing me into asphalt that tore at my skin. Gunfire cracked like thunder, impossible to tell who was shooting, who was dying. Then Luca jerked violently above me, and warmth spread across my back. Blood. His blood. "Luca!" I tried to turn to see, but he held me down with desperate strength. "Stay down!" he gritted out, voice strained with pain. "Don't move." The firefight lasted maybe 30 seconds. Felt like hours. When the guns finally fell silent, I heard shouting. Luca's men securing the perimeter, calling for medical. Luca's weight shifted off me. I scrambled to my knees and saw the bullet wound in his left shoulder, blood soaking through his shirt in an expanding stain. "You're hit. I'm fine." He was already standing, scanning the carnage with lethal focus despite his injury. "Emma, where's—" Marco emerged from behind one of the SUVs, supporting Emma. She was shaking, crying, but alive and whole. Relief flooded Luca's features for a fraction of a second before he turned to where Victor lay sprawled on the asphalt. The Russo underboss wasn't moving. 3 bullet wounds center mass. Dead before he hit the ground. "Secure the area," Luca commanded, his voice steady despite the blood loss. "Get the girl to safety." "And someone call." He swayed. I caught him before he could fall, my hands pressing against his wound. The blood was hot, slick beneath my fingers. "Stop being a hero and sit down," I ordered. You need to not bleed to death." I guided him to the SUV, pushing him into the seat with more force than necessary. Marco was already there with a first aid kit, and together we worked to staunch the bleeding. The bullet went through, Marco assessed, relief in his voice. "Clean exit. You got lucky, boss. Lucky." Luca's laugh was strained. His eyes found mine, dark with pain and something fiercer. "You could have died, so could you. You took a bullet for me." "Of course I did." He said it like it was obvious. Like there had never been any other option. Emma appeared at the SUV door, Marco's jacket wrapped around her shoulders. Her eyes were huge, terrified, taking in the bodies, the blood, the reality of what my life had become. Sophia? Her voice was small, broken. What is all this? I looked at her, my best friend, who'd lived in a world of yoga classes and coffee dates and normalcy. A world I'd left behind the moment I married Luca Moretti. It's complicated, I said, echoing the words I'd used at the mall. But you're safe now. That's what matters. Safe. Those men, they grabbed me off the street, put a bag over my head, tied me to a chair. Her voice cracked. They said they'd kill me if your husband didn't cooperate. I'm sorry. The words felt impossibly inadequate. Emma, I'm so sorry. This is my fault. I should never have talked to you that day. I should have stayed away. Stop. Luca's hand found mine, his grip weak but steady. This isn't your fault. It's mine. Russo's targeted her to hurt both of us. He looked at Emma with something almost like regret. I'll compensate you for what you've been through. New apartment, security, whatever you need to feel safe again. Emma stared at him like he was speaking a foreign language. I don't want your money. I want my friend back. The silence that followed hurt worse than any bullet wound. I can't give you that, I said quietly. The girl you knew, she doesn't exist anymore. This is my life now, Emma. Danger and guards and a husband who runs an empire. I'm only beginning to understand. Then I'll learn. Emma's voice strengthened. You're my family, Soph. If this is your world now, then help me understand it. Don't shut me out. Something warm unfurled in my chest. Not quite hope, but close. Okay, I whispered. Okay. The hospital was a blur of antiseptic and fluorescent lights. Luca refused treatment until Emma was checked and cleared. The doctors confirmed what Marco had said. Clean through and through. No major damage. Lucky. I sat beside his bed while they stitched him up, holding his uninjured hand. He never flinched. Just kept his eyes on me like I might disappear if he looked away. You were supposed to stay in the car, he said when we were finally alone. I was supposed to let my best friend die? I would have gotten her out. Maybe. I threaded my fingers through his. But I'm not just your wife, Luca. I'm your partner. That means I get to make stupid, dangerous choices too. His laugh was soft, pained. You're going to be the death of me. Or your salvation. I leaned forward, careful of his wound, and kissed him gently. We'll find out which. Recovery took 3 weeks. The bullet wound healed faster than the psychological aftermath for both of us. Luca was a terrible patient. Restless, irritable, constantly trying to work despite doctor's orders. I became his warden, confiscating phones and laptops, forcing him to rest. The role reversal wasn't lost on either of us. You're enjoying this, he accused one afternoon, glaring at me from the bed, immensely. I settled beside him with a book. Welcome to captivity. His expression softened. I deserved that. The penthouse slowly transformed. The 12 guards became 6, then 4. Security cameras remained, but the oppressive surveillance lifted. Luca started asking rather than commanding, would you like to go out today? Instead of you're not leaving. Small changes. Significant ones. Emma visited cautiously at first, escorted by Marco, who she'd developed an unexpected friendship with during her ordeal. She sat in our living room drinking coffee, asking careful questions about my new life. So you actually love him? She asked one afternoon when Luca was in his office. The mafia boss who basically bought you. I thought about Luca holding me through nightmares. About the way he looked at me like I was something precious and terrifying. About taking a bullet meant for me without hesitation. Yes, I said simply. I actually love him. Even though he's... She gestured vaguely at the penthouse, the guards, the lifestyle. Even though... Maybe because I smiled at her confusion. It's complicated, Em. Dangerous and devoted. Violent and gentle. He gave me a cage and then gave me the key. Did he, though? She raised an eyebrow. Give you the key? I looked down at my wedding ring. No longer a shackle, but a choice I made every morning when I didn't take it off. Yeah, I said. He did. 6 months after the warehouse, I stood in our kitchen making breakfast when Luca's arms wrapped around me from behind. The gesture had become routine, his way of confirming I was real, present, his. Good morning, wife. He pressed a kiss to my neck, right over the pulse point he'd learned to find in the dark. I turned in his embrace, spatula still in hand. "Good morning, husband." The words felt different now, weighted with meaning we'd earned rather than obligations we'd inherited. "Emma called," I said, watching his reaction carefully. "She wants to have lunch next week. At that new place downtown." A few months ago he would have tensed, calculated risks, assigned additional security. Instead he just nodded. "I'll have Marco drive you. Call me when you get there." Of course. I kissed him, tasting coffee and trust. "I talked to the hospital administrator yesterday too. They want me to start volunteering again. 2 days a week." This time he did tense slightly, the protective instinct he'd never fully suppress. "With security," I added before he could voice concerns, "Vincent can pose as a volunteer coordinator. No one will know." He studied me for a long moment, that calculating gaze that had once made me feel like property, now making me feel seen, known, understood. "You're not asking permission," he observed. "No." I held his stare. "I'm informing my partner of my plans." Something shifted in his expression, pride mixed with residual fear he'd probably carry forever. "Your partner," he repeated softly. "Not your jailer, not my jailer," I confirmed. He pulled me closer, forehead resting against mine. "I still want to lock you away sometimes. Keep you safe from everything, including my own world, I know. But you'd hate me for it, probably." I smiled against his mouth. "Good thing you love me more than you love control." "Debatable," he murmured, but he was smiling too. We stood there in morning light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows that no longer felt like barriers. The city spread below us, the same city where we'd met, married, fought, survived. "I never thanked you," Luca said quietly. "For what?" "For choosing to stay. After everything. You could have left when the threat ended. I would have let you go if you'd asked. I thought about that, about freedom and captivity, about cages we build and cages we choose. This," I gestured between us, "around us, isn't a cage anymore, Luca. It's home." His arms tightened. "Home," he repeated, testing the word like it was foreign. "Precious. I like that." Later. As I got ready for lunch with Emma and Luca, coordinated security with the quiet efficiency I'd grown to appreciate rather than resent, I caught my reflection in the mirror. I looked different, stronger, not the frightened girl who'd been sold into marriage, but a woman who'd chosen to stay, who'd found power in partnership and strength in loving a dangerous man who loved her back with obsessive devotion. The mafia boss had caught me talking to my friend and locked me in a penthouse with 12 guards. And somehow, impossibly, I'd turned the prison into a palace, not by escaping, but by choosing to stay.